My next guest is the Irish hand grenade Marcus Davis, who is making his return to action on October the 3rd when he meets Nick Alley. Marcus, how are you?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm really good, and it's been a very long time since I've actually seen you. You look well. Tell me, how are things for you and the family down in North Carolina?
Things are fantastic down here. My wife and I, both absolutely love it down here. The weather is much kinder to my older uh, joints and bones than Maine was, and with the illness and stuff that my wife had gotten in Maine, she can't be in that kind of temperature, and with the drastic temperature changes in Maine, we had to get out of there. So this was where we set up, and couldn't have made a better choice. With as far as you know, obviously the weather and everything is fantastic, but the economy down here and everything else, like for what I do here, I wouldn't have been able to do in Maine, and it's afforded us, a really good life after fighting, which I know that most fighters, they have a difficult time, after the fight game ends, being able to embrace a different trade. Especially if you didn't go to college or anything like that, it's going to be difficult. But down here, I've been able to uh, get some pretty incredible positions, and we're doing really well.
That's fantastic. What have things been like during the pandemic as far as your gym goes? And has it shut down at all? And just, I guess, the day-to-day life versus maybe back here in New England.
Yeah, so I mean, our gyms did shut down, but my clients that I had, so I work for a company. I do a lot of PT for a company called Core Results. And the clients that I work with there, I have a lot of clients that are, uh, you know, have had injuries, or have never worked out in their life, and that now things have gotten to a point where they're having some health issues and whatnot. So I'm a biomechanic specialist for that company, and I work with these people, both typical strength and conditioning kind of ideas behind it, but at the same time, I make sure that I work them, like, most of the time when you're working out. If you think about lifting weights or working out, everything's kind of linear. So you're pretty much staying in one kind of plane, which is, mostly your sagittal plane. Like, from laying on a bench, you're sagittal. If you're standing up and you're squatting, you're sagittal. If you're doing a lat pull down or pull ups, you're sagittal. So you're not really living in a 3D environment, right? And that's not how the body moves. So the body moves multiplanar. So I make sure that they're training in all those planes of motion, outside of just, also, when you're doing anything that's sagittal, you're either unilateral, bilateral movement. So I work with them on the coronal plane, or the frontal plane, the transverse plane, and then we do a lot of what's ipsilateral and contralateral work, on top of still doing the bilateral and unilateral stuff, but kind of gear it towards them, and then work with them on nutrition, um, not extensively like a dietitian would, like a licensed dietitian, but more of just making good choices, staying away from processed foods, and choosing whole foods, and a higher protein diet. Pretty basic stuff, not stuff like I would do to me, like to how I torture me, but definitely. So that's one job, and then I work for the big corporate company, Tap Out Fitness, and I'm the head coach there, and I teach. So when I moved down here, I got hired by that company, and they flew me out to Greg Jackson's, because uh, to have like these one of these corporation gyms like this, you've got to have somebody who's certified under Greg Jackson. So I flew out there to get they have three different certifications that go through it, but I got a master's certification from Greg. So I went out there, spent some time with him, learned his system, and then I had to do a presentation at the end of the time that I spent there, and then got certified to teach his MMA program up here in North Carolina. So those are the two jobs, and trust me. Oh, and then two jobs that I work all the time. So I work probably, I mean, actual hours of work. I probably do about 11 or 12 hours worth of clients, but I'm away from the house about 14, 15 hours a day. And then I also have my own company that I started here called the Celtic Barbarian, which is a combination of myself and Tim Boach, the Barbarian, our names to put together. When I was training Tim for the end of his UFC career, we were training here, and he helped me put together a good program, and we were training the SWAT teams down here. So what's called the NCTOA, the North Carolina Tactical Officers Association. So they call me in, and I'll do these things when they do these symposiums, or when they're gathering everybody together. I'll come in and do some kind of like higher level handcuffing techniques, and then that spread out to me doing SCAT services. So which SCAT stands for Subject Control Arrest Techniques. So I just did Clayton PD's theirs this past year, and I've done. They were my ninth department that I've worked with, but so I do that. But that's my own thing. But yeah, the two other jobs that I have, I'm there 6 days a week. One day I got off, and that's Sundays, and they even tried to take that from me.
You are a busy man. There's no doubt about that. You mentioned the Barbarian. Is there any chance Tim is going to come back and fight again, or is he done?
I don't know. I talked to Tim, obviously. I mean, who knows? He might like get the itch and say, you know what, I got to punch somebody in the face, and he might do that. You know what I mean? Legally, anyway, so he doesn't go to jail. So, but Tim also, one of the things that happened was funny is that when he came down here, one of the places that we trained all the time, which is called TFTC, for the Tactical Fighting Training Center, we were there training all the time. And there was this big guy who was a power lifter, and he was a competitive barbecuer. So him and Tim started hanging out, and Tim fell in love with barbecuing, and then learned a lot about it. And then he went home, bought a food truck, and now he owns a thing called Barbarian Barbecue in Pennsylvania. And he has a landscaping company, and he and his wife, or his wife really, has her own photography kind of company. It's more of, she has those photo booths, and they rent them out and stuff like that for events. But anyways, he's doing really well. So he might be too busy to do it, but if he gets that itch, yeah, he could come back.
No doubt. Well, he sure is a class act, so I'm happy to hear that he is doing well. You mentioned the MMA community down in North Carolina, and you teaching at Tap Out. Are there any, I guess, young up-and-coming fighters that you can tell us about that we might see in the UFC one day soon?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you one right now that you will be seeing by the end of this summer. I would either look for him to get pulled immediately into a actual event. If not, he will be scheduled to be on that Contender Series that Dana runs. And his name's Adley Edwards. So I've been training him for a while now. And he's the number one ranked bantamweight here in North Carolina. And I believe he was the number one ranked on the entire East Coast. But because he hasn't fought for a while, that might have shifted. But before this big Corona thing hit, we had set him up to fight that. I want to make sure I say his name right. I think it's Brandon Moriarty or something like that. anyways, he was the number one kid up there in New England at that weight. And so he went right up there to Mass and fought him and dominated him, and kind of that sealed his spot there as the top on this side. So he's a former NCAA champion wrestler, and didn't wrestle out of North Carolina, wrestled out of Ohio. So if you're wrestling out of Ohio and you're a champ, you know that you know how to wrestle. So he's the real deal. So obviously my role has been more of the striking for MMA, but also some, other things that we kind of add in there too, which more obviously I'm not telling him anything about wrestling, but we try to figure out how to blend and make it seamless for his style. So finding things that, rather than me teaching him just how to do Muay Thai or how to do boxing or whatever, I teach to the individual rather than, like they say, to the masses. So I just try to make things fit for him particularly, so it fits his style, not my style. So.
Well, you clearly have a lot going on down there in North Carolina. How frequently will you make your way back up to Maine to visit? Is that something that is kind of few and far between at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I've been back once or twice that I can think of, and right now I'm working so much, and my wife and I just bought just under 3 acres of unrestricted land, right on the ocean, or not really on the ocean, but it's less than 2 miles from the Atlantic Ocean here. So we're got that now. So we're not going to be moving there for probably another 10 years, but I got a lot of work to do out there. So anytime that I get free time out there with a chainsaw, cutting trees down, clearing the land and all that. And I've got some big plans for that out there, not just, for our home, but for some other stuff too. So I'm looking forward to working on that some more. And, if I do go back to Maine, I can tell you, it wouldn't be this year because I won't make it up this summer. And I ain't going there ever in the winter. So yeah, maybe next year I'll try to make some time and get up there.
Nice. Well, it'd be good to see you back up here in your old stomping grounds. I do know there's a lot of reptiles and snakes down that way. Is that something that you have to deal with frequently?
I don't know if we ever knew this about me, but so as a kid growing up, I was deep into studying herpetology. So, and then the pet stores there, and mainly the airport mall pet store all the time used to call me, but pet stores knew about me and knew that. And they would call me and say, hey, we have a sick iguana here. Can you come take a look? Or rather than even going to a vet or something, or even I even got a call one time from the airport mall. They asked me to come in because that there's the Frederick's flower store, or whatever it's called. There's a flower store that's across from where the pet store used to be. And they said that they got a shipment of exotic flowers in, and a lizard jumped out and just took off. So they brought me over to come and catch the lizard. And it was actually a brown bass lisk, which is one of those. The green ones are the ones they call the Jesus Christ lizard because it runs across the water. But so anyways, yeah, my point is I've been around, and I'm not afraid of any of this stuff. So when we first moved here, I have 3 girls, but 2 still living at home. One's the one periodically is in college, but anyways, the 3 of them with my wife came running in, screaming and hollering, and said that there was a giant snake in our carport. And so I went out and scooped it up and was just holding it, and they were freaking out. And I was like, listen, this is actually a king snake. It's not venomous, and it actually eats venomous snakes, and there are venomous snakes here in North Carolina. So let's not kill this one, and let's put it in our front of our dooryard there, and hopefully it sticks around and eats any of the stuff that comes. And they thought it was crazy, but and
Yeah.
then the anoles that everybody calls chameleons are not chameleons, but the anoles are everywhere. So and they're as common here as I guess you'd look at like grasshoppers up in Maine. I mean, they're everywhere here. So you'll see them all over the house and on the outsides of the house and everything. So, but nothing. And skanks too. They're running around. I didn't say skanks. Skinks. I'm sure there's skanks around here too.
I'm sure.
A lot. I just don't run into a lot of skanks, but skinks all the time.
If you look hard enough, I'm sure you can find either or. I actually got introduced to king snakes when I lived in California because my buddy, where I was living at his house, it was on the side of a mountain, and it was like this 6-foot long king snake just cruising across the backyard, and I was freaking out because it looked venomous to me, but he told me that they eat the rattlesnakes that are all around there, so I was like, okay, good, I'll leave him be.
Was the king snake a plebeian? Was it the one that was? Did it have a bunch of that plebeian? That's milk snake, but was it multicolored or was it just all black? You remember?
Man, I think it was all black.
Yeah, yeah. Those are usually black with a white belly over there. So, but over here they're black with a yellow belly. But yeah, no, they absolutely, man. Those are they're pretty docile too. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just like people, I'm sure you can find one that's a prick and it'll bite you, but I have no problem. I just pick them up and move them so that they don't get killed or
Sure.
when people don't know. Also, turtles, man, turtles everywhere where I live, man. You on a really hot day, you will see them crossing the road all the time, or just walking around. So everything from the sliders to the painted turtles to the snapping turtles too, everywhere here. So it's pretty cool. It's a little different, but in Maine too, we obviously we had the turtles, but nowhere near as many as I see here.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying North Carolina and everything that's going on down there for you is going well. That's always a good thing to hear for you. Marcus, one question that I had for you that I think a lot of people in the MMA or just combat sports world would love to know. I mean, you've been around this sport and just combat sports in general for most of your whole life. When you look at the mixed martial artists nowadays versus back in your day when you were in your prime, how does it differ? Is it better? Is it worse? Like, tell me the differences that you see when you look at the fighters nowadays versus back then.
Well, you definitely see differences if you're looking at it from the sports sense. You see differences that you really see the how things flow differently when people are doing said techniques. So it's not like you don't see people necessarily looking like a kickboxer and then a boxer or whatever, like the stances and the way that they stand, the way that they fight are make it so that they can do everything, right? So I noticed those little tiny changes where boxers would, or somebody who had a boxing background would take more of a boxing stance so that they could do their main weapon, and then everything else would be second to that, which would really harm your ability to fight an MMA if you were fighting somebody who was a wrestler or something. But now you see people, everything looks like it's, other than a select few, right, are able to put it all together. Like there's no like little I don't know, no little stuck places. Like you used to see that all the time. You would see somebody start striking and then a guy would drop level and the guy's still standing upright, trying to kick or knee him. But you don't see that anymore. You see the second somebody's level drops, the other guy's matching his level. When the guy shoots in, the other guy's already getting his hips away and digging for the underhook or has the whizzer or doing something like that, where it wasn't like that. It was like once that wrestler shot in, the kickboxer or whatever was just throwing the big knee or the big uppercut and then ended up hitting the ground. And then, people would fall asleep because typically the wrestlers would just keep them on the ground and keep giving them those little noogie punches, right? And not really loading up and hitting them very hard. We don't see that anymore. Now the wrestlers can all strike, and they're all scary too, and they'll get you on the ground and they'll really beat you up. And the strikers are able to seamlessly defend the takedowns and get back up to their feet. So the sport has really come all the way around where it's one thing of its own. It's no longer the kickboxing, the boxing, the jiu-jitsu, the judo. It's just what it is. It's just all one thing. So you're not seeing people try to switch between being a striker and a grappler. You're just seeing them as MMA fighters all the time. And then as far as the people, I've definitely seen a lot of guys that are more athletes than are fighters. So, and what I mean by that is there's less of the tough street fighting kind of guys. They're still out there, but there's nowhere near as many as there was when this all started. So, someone like myself, or Mike Tyson as a boxer, right? Mike Tyson would kill you on the street or in the ring. But, at one point there was a lot of guys that were in boxing that were very athletic, and it got to that at some point, and they weren't just street fighters and stuff. That's kind of what's happened here in MMA. These are guys that could have played any sport, and they chose the sport of MMA for whatever reason.
If you had to put the top fighters ever, like on a Mount Rushmore for mixed martial arts, who would be your guys?
Well, obviously the first one would be Royce Gracie because of what he did. The original, guy to show this. And then after that, you would have to have an argument over, because Mount Rushmore is going to have the guys that were the best in their disciplines, those single disciplines that ended up using those disciplines effectively, even though they were in a mixed martial arts scenario. So we're paying homage to the old, just like you do with Mount Rushmore. You know what, right? If you're a fan of Reagan, you can't put Reagan on Mount Rushmore. You can't, right? So it's already, he wasn't one of the founders. So I'm going to look at founders when I'm doing this. So I'm going to look at Royce Gracie. Then I'm going to have to think it's either going to be Mark Kerr or Mark Coleman. So Mark Kerr, the smashing machine, he was, really grounding and pounding and beating people up at the same time as Coleman, or maybe even a little bit before, but over in Japan. And then you had Coleman over here, so who they call the grandfather of ground and pound. So if we're just going to go with the UFC and people that they know, then I guess you'd go Royce and then Coleman. Then after that, for the striker, I'm probably, because of me, I was a big Mirko Cro Cop fan. So I might go with Cro Cop as far as the, that whole thing goes with the striking. And, he did a really good job of defending takedowns when he was in Pride. And then when he came over to the UFC, he didn't have such a great, transfer over. But anyways, then the fourth face I'd put on there, I would just probably put Bruce Lee, for the fact that even though he wasn't MMA, he was the one that broke that barrier of, how everybody was thinking one style, and he truly was saying, no, you should do everything. And even me growing up, and I started martial arts in 1982, and even then it was still karate's better than kung fu's better than karate, taekwondo is better than this, and there was still those arguments were all going on, and um, you know he was the first one to keep telling everybody that you needed to change it. So that's probably what mine would look like.
Well, that's definitely a great foursome right there. Mark, it's been a while since we've seen you inside the cage. It was actually in February of 2014 that you competed last, and it was against Ryan Sanders, which we all know. Tell me, I think this is the thing that everyone wants to know the most. Why the comeback now?
Well, I'm not going to call it a comeback as far as like I'm not going to be staying. I'm taking this fight and then I'm leaving, and this is why. So all the way from, I'm going to say, maybe about 2009, or maybe even a little before that, I had injuries that my wife and I were talking about all the time because they seemed that they were going to be life lasting injuries. So a lot of people don't know that I tore the retina in this eye twice. And I had a bunch of other problems. They told me I had superior oblique muscle palsy, third cranial nerve palsy, told me that I had a cataract in the eye. Then I had lower lumbar fast syndrome. I had spinal stenosis. I had bulging discs at C5, 6, 7, and 8. I was constantly getting epidurals in my neck. I had all kinds of like dislocations and stuff that were sliding, had these problems. And then I got really, really sick and started to had a lot of like digestive issues and stuff. And it was because of those massive weight cuts that I was doing, and because I had done so much harm to my digestive system. I had brought on food allergies, basically, like my body couldn't digest certain foods anymore, and would react to certain things. And I didn't know that. And so when I decided that I'd had enough and that I was just going to get worse, and things were getting worse, which was, at that time, all I did was I said, I've got, I got to learn. I got to do some stuff. So what I started doing was just started researching all the problems that I had. And then I went and I saw doctors, and then, I started just studying a bunch of stuff on my own. And so, some of my buddies that were boxers, back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, I saw them, and it scared me because they could barely speak, and they had slurring their words all the time. And so then I started studying a lot of the neuroprogramming and binary code, binary beats, and started doing that to forcefully put my brain into state, so that it's like anything else. If you don't train that muscle, the muscle will go into atrophy. The brain is a tricky thing. If you people will say, well, I read all the time, so I'm using my brain, but that's not how the brain works. So if you're reading and you're reading stuff that you read all the time, like the stuff that you like, you're not challenging yourself. Your brain is not going to like your brain cells are not going to create new axons in order to retrieve and hold more information. Like every brain cell you have can carry more information. They can become a more intelligent, smarter brain cell when challenged. So when they're challenged, like when a muscle's challenged, a muscle will go through hypertrophy and start to grow. Well, a brain cell will then grow axons, and in order to pull in more information and hold more information. So I started doing that stuff, and then one thing leads to another, as it always does. And then, I'd already been doing biomechanics before that, which I started, with Master Che, who was a PhD in biomechanics and physiology. And then I just, started studying and going to school for it and stuff like that. And then through all of that, and then learning about the brain, and then I started studying about the brain and how the brain works in like life and death situations, which all comes from your limbic system. And then when I started studying the limbic system, I started studying how motor skill is logged in the brain, and then how if you can put your brain into what's called neuroplasticity, that allows you to store these uh, fine and complex motor skills from speeding up transmission from the brain to the synapses of the muscles and stuff like that, so that you can get faster and get stronger and stuff. So anyways, so I started doing all this stuff. So I've been doing this stuff for the last like 6 years. And then about maybe I'd say 2 years ago, all of my issues that I had all gone away. So I had finally cured them and fixed them. I had I had to have a minor surgery thing for my eye, and then I just started everything that I did. I did, which was funny, when I was training and I was fighting, my focus was always on my training. So my focus was, I got to train harder, I got to train longer, I got to train, I got to train, I got to train. And then my next focus might have been my diet. And then it was like, oh crap, I got to lose the weight, I got to get. And so when I was training, I was trying to get bigger and stronger. And then when I was dieting, I'm trying to get smaller. And just was not the smartest thing. And the last thing I worried about was my recuperation. So then, don't get me wrong, I wanted to get good sleep, and I would use ice to, heal wounds, but it wasn't my focus. So what became different is that the most important thing to me became my mind, was training my mind. But when I look at those three, the triad, the first most important thing to me became my rest and recuperation. So knowing that after the age of 25, the only time a man regulates, or in women too, but the only time you're going to regulate your hormones, and when I say regulate your hormones, I'm talking about your growth hormone, your testosterone, the ones that do make us, men and strong and whatnot. Um, and then your cortisol levels, right, which will make you fat. It's a stress hormone, and your body will you will gain weight. So all these different hormones and your serotonin that make you feel a certain way, that all gets regulated during delta sleep patterns. So that means you have to hit REM sleep, and you have to hit it and stay in it. So if you're in and out, in and out, in and out, if you have disturbed sleep, you're never going to regulate those hormones. So sleep has a massive part of that. And then obviously diet does too. So, uh, certain foods can cause your body to have hormonal responses. So studying all of this stuff, I was like, I wasn't thinking ever about fighting. I'm like, I don't care about that. It's not what I do. I didn't care about it. I just wanted me to be healthy and be around for my grandkids, around for my family. I have a responsibility to make sure that they are protected, that they are cared for, and that they are, that they have the things that they need. So that's my focus, was to be around. Well, I got bigger, I got stronger, I got better, and I got, things just started to get better for me. And then because that became my focus, was rest and recovery. And then the next thing that became my focus was my nutrition, was my diet. That was the next most important thing. So I started learning more about getting really deep into food and everything, and how my body, not everybody else's, but how my body reacted. And I did this through, journaling food and how I felt, and being very precise on calories, and then studying the physiology of digestion and how that works. And so, I made sure that I never eat more than 800 calories in a sitting. I never let 2 hours go by without throwing something in my mouth. I'm always going to have 100 to 200 calories every 2 hours. I'm going to make sure that my macros are being met, and that I don't become micronutrient deficient. That I keep all that stuff in check. So that was what I did. And then in between all this, I would train. So, but the thing is that I couldn't train like I did when I was fighting, because all I did was I trained as hard as I could for 2 hours. And then I would go eat, rest, and then come back in at night and train again as hard as I could for 2 hours. Can't do that. Not when you're at my age. And I wouldn't do that anyways, even if I was younger. So what I was doing is, and I'm working all the time, I would train in chunks, and it's referred to as volume training. So I would do, I got a pretty crazy setup here at my home, but I would do, like, every morning I would come out, I would look at my setup. I have this outdoor, like, man jungle gym, and it's got, it's this big octagon, which is funny, but it's pretty cool. I'll have to send you a picture of it. But I've got, 3 TRXs, a bunch of bands. I've got kettlebells. I've got a Olympic bar, and just 135 pounds, and 2 45-pound plates on it out there. I've got dumbbells. I've got resistance bands. I got everything you could have out there. So every morning that I go out and I'm going to leave, I go jump on that thing and I play for about 15 minutes. And I do all this stuff. And then I go to work. And then if I ever come home, if I see that, I make a agreement with myself. I have to get on it. I have to play for 15 minutes. So then when I come home from work, I got to go on and I got to play for 50. So anytime I see it, I go on and I play on it for a while. And I say play because I enjoy doing what I do. I don't think about it that it's work, it's play. So because I've been able to do that, I've been since, I moved down here, I've been, I'm a 47-year-old guy with an 8-pack, right? So I look like all of my clients that I have. So I have like 15 PT clients, and then I have a bunch of clients that I work with that are, fighters and stuff. But they all say to me, you must work out, every single day for hours and hours. And I go, no, I work out for 15 minutes at a time. And a lot of people don't believe that, but that's what I do. And it's just that I've been able to do it in such a way that if I do it 2 or 3 times in a day, realistically, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe I got 45 minutes in that day. Other days I might only get a half hour in, but I'm consistent with it. And through that time, because I can do that 6 or 7 days a week, I'm not resting ever. Like, I don't take a Sunday and not work out. Today's Sunday, and I worked out today. So I work out every single day, and I don't need to take breaks, and I don't need to rest because I'm doing it all in chunks. So I'm chunking it all together. So if you're thinking that you can't, like that doesn't make sense, you want to think about it like this. If you were to work out as hard as you could and do 100% on a Monday, there's no way you can give 100% on Tuesday. So if you're doing strength training on Monday, Tuesday you're going to have to do aerobic training or something like that. You can't be anaerobic training because your muscles will break down. So you're still not going to give 100% of your aerobic training. If I'm doing 100, you can't do 100% Monday, 100% Tuesday, 100% Wednesday, 100%. It's impossible. Your body will break down. But if I do 70% Monday through Sunday, my body's never getting taxed to the point that I have to have a break, right? So mathematically, if I do 100 on a Monday, Tuesday I take off, I do 100 on a Wednesday, or I try to, but I can't because I'm still a little sore. Maybe I only do 80. Then I'm going to think I'm going to do 100 on Friday, but I really can't. So maybe I might get 70 or 80. And then Saturday I'm going to go into the gym and I'm going to try to do 100, but I'm probably only get 70 or 80 out of that because of how that accumulates. Well, mathematically, what ends up happening at the end of the year, you end up with thousands of more repetitions and time that you've actually worked out by chunking it and working out at 15 minutes at a time, doing 70% a day, than you do if you do 100%, 80%, and 90%, and then like 70%, let's say, those 4 days a week. You end up pulling ahead. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last like 6 years. And then in between that, there are days like day before yesterday, I was at a gym where I have the Adley Edwards, the guy that I'm training who's going to be in the UFC. He was in the middle of a wrestling practice kind of thing that we were doing, that he had this kid from Russia that he works out with. And they're just wrestling, but then another Jackson guy was there. Greg Jackson's one of his old pupils. And he just said to me, "Hey, you want to move around and do some sparring?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we did 5 rounds of sparring right there. I just jumped in 5 rounds of sparring. And then I posted about it the week prior to that. I did 10 rounds of MMA sparring. So I'm chunking that too. So sparring isn't as important for me as it is for a lot of other guys. I've been, fighting my whole life. I know how to fight. I know how to spar. I know all that stuff. The only thing I need to pay attention to right now is not getting hurt, being healthy, and then, maybe I've been focusing once or twice a week on my fast twitch, and then a timing. So timing is, in my opinion, the first thing that leaves all your older fighters. Strength is the last thing. Speed being one of them, but that's why I said fast twitch before. So, and I don't have like some kind of like weird thought that I'm like, that I have no interest in fighting in the UFC again. I have no interest in trying to make some kind of stupid run to whatever. That's not what I'm thinking. I want to go in, I want to have this fight, and I want to leave on my own terms, and I want to leave feeling that I left healthy, and I left where I wasn't leaving my career saying, I had to get out because, because they stuck around too long. I was hurt. I was, all that stuff. So, and then you hear it when I'm hearing it too, when I'm working with these guys, I'm training these people. I have been, living here for the last, 4, how long have I been here? Yeah, 4 years. Them all, when I was sparring with them and grappling with them, they kept saying, not me, they're all saying, "Oh my God, imagine if you were fighting now, you're killing everybody. Oh my God, I can't believe," and all this. And then I'm sure you knew that like 2 years ago, just for fun, they asked me to compete here in do a super fight thing. And I grappled a guy named Brian Edwards, who I didn't know anything about because I don't follow grappling. And but he's a 6'4", 240-pound, 2-time no-gi world champion, beat Saulo Ribeiro, a 200-time gold medalist jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I submitted him in 10 minutes in the first round. And nobody thought I was going to win that. And I didn't even know anything about it. I just showed up and I grappled and I beat him. So then afterwards, then I found everything out. And then that kind of showed me another thing where if I had have known that before I went in, I may have been a little more hesitant, a little more cautious. But because I didn't, I was kind of went in with reckless abandonment and just went after him. So, goes to show you, sometimes it's good to go in there and just put all your abilities and your what you can do on your opponent, not worry about what he can do because it's irrelevant. You can't control what he does. He's going to do what he does. But it's better for you to give him all of you, everything you got, and tell him to figure it out, not worry about what he's going to do. So, and that's what I'm going to do come October 3rd. I'm going to go out there and, I'm going to put it on this kid. And he's the nicest guy. I'm not going to trash talk. I'm not going to pull into that crap. I've never been really interested in that. So just going to go out there and I'm going to perform, and the better man will win that night.
Well, it sounds like you found the fountain of youth, which is a scary thought for anyone competing against you. Marcus, I got a two-part question for you. To get back to that Ryan Sanders fight, that was the last time you fought, as I mentioned before, and the doctor stopped the fight after the first round because of the scar tissue above your eye. There was a big cut, and it didn't stop bleeding. Number one, did that stoppage sit rather badly with you? Did you agree with it? And number two, is that a concern for this upcoming fight? Do you worry about getting cut above your eye and affecting you in the cage?
So, no. So I know that they stopped it because when the cut, they talk about stopping on the cut. It wasn't really the cut because when he put the light in my eye, so this is what happened. The doctor came over and said, I want to look at the cut. He put the light in my eye and I couldn't see out of the eye, but I didn't say anything. He put the light in my eye and he said, you can't see out of this eye. And I paused and he said, your eye is not responding. Then he said to me, can you see? And I said, it's a little black, or I said something like, I could see some, but not all, or whatever, but I couldn't see out of the eye. And then he said, yeah, he did, and then he just turned over his shoulder and said, he can't see. He can't, this eye's not. So what ended up happening is then they stopped the fight because of that, not necessarily the cut. I mean, the cut was there, and I guess they could have from that. But and then when I went in the back room, my vision came back in like parts. So like I had like if you could cut like your think about if you could cut your eye in half, and half of this side or whatever was just all black. That's what happened. So then I was like, which is scary to think, I was relieved that I had half of that eye I could see. And then when it came back, before the fight had started, since the Nate Diaz fight, I had double vision. So after the Nate Diaz fight, I never told anybody, but I had double vision, and my vision was horizontal double vision. So if I looked at you, I would see your head kind of floating above your head a little bit. So like your body and your image. So when my vision came back after the Sanders fight, it was now vertical. So my vision had switched and it scared the crap out of me. So I ended up going and seeing another doctor. And this doctor actually, which is kind of neat, it's a neat little thing. He was Jake LaMotta's eye doctor. So it's kind of cool. But anyways, we talked about that and everything. But he took a look at my eye. And then when I moved down here, I started looking in and researching eye doctors here. And I found one that was like, everybody was like, 5-star, never found anything negative about her. And I went in and talked to her, and then she got real deep into my eye and looked at it. And then we did a laser surgery stuff on my eye, something that's new, and did that. And my eye's been perfect. It's been fine. Like I had no problems with my eyes at all. I keep, maybe you'll see it. You see all these glasses on this thing?
Yes. Yeah.
So I keep all those glasses. My wife wants to throw them away, but my eyes were so bad. I had like 20 or 30 pairs of glasses because I kept forgetting where I put them. And so I had to keep getting glasses. Then I found them all. And I put them all in that shade. There's still some around. But anyways, it's to remind me, I have those. I don't need glasses anymore. I have perfect vision. I can read, no problem. But it's to remind me of that. And so it drives her nuts that I keep them. But,
Well, that's great to hear that your eyesight is back to 100% and you're feeling good. Marcus, when you look back at your career, you saying this is your last fight, you're going to be done after this. What are you most proud about? Is there one fight or one moment in your career that you can point to that you can say, that was the pinnacle of everything I've accomplished?
Well, I mean, obviously it would have been the Chris Lytle fight. I mean, everybody knows that. It would have been because of who he was as an opponent and the circumstances that led up to that, because I was really, really sick for that fight too. There's a big story with that and everything. Have Mark Delagrati on one night and have him on your show and ask him about that, and he'll tell the story about it, how he got them to give me an IV and all this stuff, but thought I was dying. But anyways, and the fact that it was in Dublin, Ireland, and I got to do that, and we were on the main card, and to pull off a win, during all of everything I had to go through for that fight and still pull it off, that would be the one big thing for me, and that would be it, man. That would, as far as all that stuff goes.
Mhm. Are you surprised as to what Nate Diaz has gone on and accomplished since you fought him way back in 2010, or did you kind of expect him to turn into what he has today?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, uh, he got lucky to do that because, you know, things just aligned kind of for him. I don't think that would have happened if he hadn't fought Conor McGregor. None of that would have happened. So they would have kept him away and kind of, he would have been still looked at like his brother was the whole time his brother was in there. He absolutely deserves every bit of it too. Like now, everything that he's getting, I think he deserves all of it. It just sucks to think that he wouldn't have gotten it all if it hadn't been for Conor McGregor fights. So those are kind of the things that you kind of got to look at as like uh, Conor McGregor was both good and bad for the sport. So as good as he was, there was some bad stuff for the sport too, and there's some stuff that I really, really, really liked about Conor McGregor. When I first started to watch him and figure it out. Like he'd been fighting for a while, man. I was so far out of it that I was getting asked to give my opinion on him. Like I was getting emails and calls and texts saying, "What do you think of this kid Conor McGregor? What do you think of Conor McGregor?" All the way up until the fight, I was asked, "What do I think's going to happen between him and Nate Diaz?" Okay, my reply was, "Who's Conor McGregor?" And the people that were asking me was like, "Oh my God, how do you not know this?" And so then, I'm not kidding you, that's when I started watching. So I watched all the fights I could watch on him. And then I answered them back and I said, and I swear to you, I will have to screenshot it at some point and maybe send it to you because I hopefully still have it. I sent them, like you and I were talking on Facebook, on the Messenger app. That's how I was talking to them. That's how they were reaching out to me. And I said to them that I said, McGregor loses, second round, rear naked choke. And they were like, "What? No way!" And you know what I said to them? I said, I watched all of his fights. The guy's all fast twitch. He's never has good aerobic energy. He's gonna fight for the first time a guy that's just as long as him because he's always got the longest reach. He's gonna fight somebody that can take a shot. He's gonna fight somebody that's gonna have a high output that's just gonna throw, 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 throw. He's then gonna get tired. He's then gonna be taken down and he's gonna be submitted. I never thought he'd shoot on him, so I didn't call that right. I said he was gonna get tired, taken down and submitted. But then they came back to me and they were like, "Oh man, you called it. You were right." And then when the second time it happened, I said that Diaz was going to win again, and it would be in the third or fourth round by submission again because I figured they would try to make adjustments and stuff, but it wouldn't be. But I was wrong. Conor ended up pulling off the decision. I mean, it was a controversial, but I think after I've watched it several times, I think maybe he did win that. It was awful close, though.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, those two fights between those two guys really did a lot for the sport, and I hope the trilogy happens at some point here soon. Let's talk about this specific fight with Nick here. What weight class will this be at?
170.
170. And what's your weight at right now?
I'm teetering. It depends, right? After tonight, I'll probably be like 178, 179. But during the week, I'm staying right around like 175, 174. So the last time that I sparred, I weighed myself and I was actually below fight weight. So my weight fluctuates according to my properly hydrated. What did I do the night before? So on Sundays are I wouldn't say like a cheat day or anything, but they are my glycogen or my carb loading days. So I lose all the glycogen that I have in my muscle tissue throughout the week. And then Sundays, I eat almost all my carbohydrates. I shouldn't say almost all my, but I eat a massive amount of carbohydrates on Sundays. So on Mondays when I wake up, I'm probably around 180 pounds, or maybe a pound or so heavier. But then by Tuesday, I'm back to like waking up at 176 maybe or something like that. So, that I'm not, where before, that's not how it was before. So I
Oh,
walked around Team Irish at about 210, 220, and then I would cut. I never was below 185 5 days before the fight. And so every time I ever showed up, I would get on the scale 5 days before the fight, and I always was 185. And they'd look at me and go, "You're on like clockwork." And then I dropped that last 14, 15 pounds those last 5 days. Well, not this time. This time, I'm literally going to go and depending on when the weigh-in is. If the weigh-in's in the morning, I'll wake up on an empty stomach and go weigh in. If the weigh-in's in the afternoon, I'll have a slight breakfast because at that point, it's only the actual weight of the food that I'm putting in my body that will matter. It won't matter the caloric intake. So I'll end up, doing that. So I'm not going to have to suffer at all.
mhm.
I'm what I am at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a significant difference from when I was around you back at Team Irish. How do you feel like this lack of a weight cut is gonna benefit you come fight night?
It's gonna benefit me a couple of ways. It's gonna benefit me in my anaerobic system because I will be full of the, my natural, normal, everyday carbohydrates, the same ones, the glycogen that I have when I train every time. Um, so I won't have to be deficient in it and then carb up, right? Which your body doesn't do well when you do that either. If it stays consistent and there's consistency, you perform, you know, because your body has been trained that way. Uh, so I'll perform better as far as when I'm going through like the grinding aspect of it, which when my muscles are flexing or when my muscles are retracting and stuff like that, and they fill up with lactate and whatnot, lactic acid. I'm not going to have that problem where I'm going to have like uh, so much of it in there that you can't lose that perpetual pump, which is a bad thing. That's happens to a lot of guys because they over carbohydrate, and because their body was insufficient with carbohydrates through the dieting process and the weight loss process, they suffer. That's not going to happen to me. And then I'm not going to be dehydrated at all. So my brain will be completely hydrated. So, and guys that get knocked out easy isn't necessarily, sometimes it's because that button's been pushed too often. But there's another reason, and it's dehydration. So dehydration plays a big role in how hard you're going to take a shot. So I'm not going to be dehydrated at all. And then, right, and that will help with my aerobic system. So both of my strength, and even though I'm only 78-pound guy or whatever, I'm still a 178-pound guy who used to work out with 405 at 220 pounds. So that means my central nervous system is made, and my bones have held that muscle, that weight, and I still hold that kind of like my tendons, my ligaments, the connective tissue, the fascia is still just as strong, even though the muscles aren't as big and strong. So, he will say to people after this fight, regardless of what happens in the with whatever the outcome of this fight is, if him and I clinch or we end up on the ground, he's going to tell people that I feel like a gorilla. He's going to tell people that he's going to say either A, he's going to say it's the strongest 170-pound guy that's ever gotten a hold of me, or I'm going to be up there with them. So and that's what I get from feedback everybody here. So when I'm rolling or I'm grappling with anybody, these 200 plus pound guys that I roll with, they all say afterwards, the first thing they say is, I can't believe that they can't just manhandle me or manipulate me. So I have a lot of confidence there, obviously.
Yeah.
So and I think that I'm as fast, which normally doesn't happen, as I was, if not maybe faster, because I've stayed so light, and because of the knowledge that I have about how fast twitch works, how to train fast twitch, and how to properly recuperate after that. That's been part of my whole training process. So everything that I do now is scheduled. So I'm living by a very, very specific schedule. And the beauty of that is that I can do that now because I don't have to worry about having to say, okay, I can't do this today because I'm too sore or I'm too this. I can do everything because I feel the same all the time. I don't feel right. I'm not hurt. I'm not achy. I'm not. So I'm really looking at this from a whole nother perspective, and I'm logging all this. So I'm journaling all this, and potentially going to write about it and share some of the things that that I've done here to kind of create this. Everybody will see that night. So I could say whatever I want to say now, and it's not going to matter. And like I tell fighters, I tell them all the time when I'm training them, they'll have a great day at the gym, and I'll say, you know what? You looked really good today. You kicked everybody's butt, blah, blah, blah. But you got to remember this. All this stuff, however you perform in the gym today, tomorrow, this whole time, doesn't mean nothing if you do not perform that night. The only thing that matters is how you perform that night, who shows up that night. So you can have crappy times in the gym and still show up and perform great on fight night, and you can vice versa have great nights and perform crap. So right now, I just try to have every day be a happy, productive day, so I have consistency throughout this whole trip that I'm doing to this fight.
Now we're still about a month and a half away from fight night. Has Karen and Premier, have they made a decision yet as to whether or not there will be fans in the stands on fight night, or is that something that could still change depending on what happens with this pandemic?
Well, I have no idea, to be honest with you. So all I did, I was kind of a pain in the butt with Karen and the whole thing, because she's been trying to get me to do this since I moved down here and I said, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. So I consistently told her I'm just, I'm not, and she never stopped. She just kept coming and kept coming. So, and after that, after me being such a pain in the ass, we really haven't spoken anything about the event. I'm going to reach out to her because there's some stuff that I gotta talk to her and touch base with her about that. But I'll have to find out myself. I'm not sure what they're gonna do or how they're gonna do it. Hopefully, it would really suck to not to have fans there. You know what I mean? That would suck, but it is what it is. Either way, the only thing I'm gonna try to do is focus on showing up and being healthy.
Who's going to be in your corner come fight night? Are you going to have Delagrati there for old times?
Got it. Yeah, Mark Delagrati will be there. We've talked about it and everything. He supports the decision, and Mark will be there.
That's fantastic. Now, Nick is 6-3. 5 of his 6 wins are by way of submission. All 3 of his losses, he's been finished via punches. That seems to be something that you're very proficient in, is your hands. Stylistically with this matchup, I know you're not talking junk leading up to this fight, but ultimately, how do you see this fight ending?
Well, I don't know how it's going to end, but I can tell you this. Uh, I, he fought two of the knockouts that he's had were against southpaws, and I will say I'm a much better southpaw, seasoned, and both know more about how to be a southpaw than the two guys that have beaten him. So, and you know, I am a better striker now than I was then, anyways, because I've just had time to, hone and learn more about the tactical and strategy approaches to go beyond how I was doing it before. So, uh, I'm confident anywhere. So it doesn't matter to me if people are thinking, or if he's thinking in his head, or anybody's thinking, uh, all he has to do is get Marcus on the ground and he'll finish him. Oh, he's very mistaken, because much, much, much bigger and stronger men I have gone with, and they have not. None of them have finished me on the ground. So this is not going to be. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for either of us. The one that will pay for it will be the one that has a bad strategy or makes a tactical error. That's the one that's going to pay for it.
Well, I can tell you, I'm very excited to see you back in active competition October 3rd. Can't get here soon enough. Marcus, it's always a pleasure. I've known you for quite a few years now. You're just great to be around. You're a fantastic fighter for sure, but you're a phenomenal coach as well. I sincerely appreciate the time. And if there's anyone you want to thank or any sponsors that you have, the floor is yours.
No sponsors yet, so we're going to be shopping for those sponsors soon. But just thanking anybody who's been a supporter. I thank them, my wife and kids, obviously, and you, Ryan, for asking me to come on. I appreciate it, and I hope to see fans there. If fans do end up able to go. Fans of MMA. I don't call the people who support me fans; they're just supporters. So I hope to see people there. That's it. It'd be great to see some New England people that I haven't seen at the fight, and it would be a tragedy if they wouldn't let people go. But we'll see what happens, and I look forward to fight night.